Hello, this is how to run Android applications on Linux using Android Emulator that is inside the integrated development environment Android Studio. I searched on Google Android Studio Emulator. First of all, I want to install the integrated development environment Android Studio. For this, I have installed the application JetBrains Toolbox, which is a launcher application that allows you to install, uninstall, upgrade JetBrains integrated development environments. And Android Studio is both a JetBrains integrated development environment and also a Google integrated development environment, and it will appear in this list. So I have installed JetBrains Toolbox. You just download the tar.gzip. Inside there's a single file, graphical user interface application. You double click on it and that's about it. Then the application JetBrains Toolbox will be available in your start menu. My host operating system is Ubuntu 2504. I start JetBrains Toolbox. It will have a system tray icon. This is how the application looks like. In here is the list of all of the products, mostly integrated development environments that are available from the company JetBrains. At the very end of the list is this application Android Studio. I go install. I agree to the EULA, install Android Studio. And now this is the list of available applications at the bottom, and at the top there will be the list of installed applications. It's installing hopefully the newest version of Android Studio. And there's also the possibility of installing other versions than the latest version of Android Studio, also from this application JetBrains Toolbox. And even future versions. There's a release candidate, a nightly build. So we're installing a version from newer than February and older than April. So pretty recent from this year. Okay, it's a complex integrated development environment. Will contain probably a Java runtime environment. There's a ton of additional plugins installed as part of Android Studio, including this hardware accelerated, GPU accelerated Android emulator. What we actually want to do is on my computer, again Ubuntu 2504, I want to run Android applications. Not really games, but applications in general. The other options that I know for running Android applications on Linux is Waydroid. Android x86 is a thing from 10 years ago, and Nbox is also has stopped development 1 year ago. The hopefully more stable and better supported option is Android Studio, because Android Studio is provided by Google and has full-time employed developers and manual testers, etc. Okay, says that the application has been installed correctly. You can just open it by clicking once, or it's also going to be available in the start menu. All of these applications, if you install them with Toolbox, will have an app inside the start menu. This one, very long name. Okay, let's see the installer. The first run wizard of the application. Send usage statistics. The wizard will set up. Choose the type of setup. There's something wrong in here. There's not enough room for the text previews and gets ellipsized, but barely. Okay, let's see what it says. So it has created a directory ~android/sdk. It's going to install the Android emulator a 1/4 gigabyte. And a x86-64 image that's almost 2 gigabytes in size. We want to run Android applications on Linux, but my CPU is AMD 64, so x86-64 Intel CPU, and I want the best performance possible out of running Android applications. And that means that the Android applications that I want to run are actually AMD 64, so x86-64. That's why you see that the images that are going to be downloaded and I'm going to use are not ARM v7, ARM 32-bit, ARM 64-bit, AR64, but Intel 64-bit. Because only these can be hardware accelerated. So we can use the hardware virtualizations that exists in AMD CPUs and in Intel CPUs. In Intel CPUs is called VTX, and in AMD CPUs is called AMD-V. I accept. We have detected that your system can run the Android emulator in an accelerated performance mode. Linux-based systems support virtual machine acceleration through KVM. Great. I already have a Virt Manager installed, which is a graphical user interface application for a virtualization software for running virtual machines, and that will automatically install KVM. Okay, so while it's downloading 3 gigabytes of zip files, let's look at the instructions that we get. So says we want virtual machine acceleration on Linux using KVM. I'm on Ubuntu. Require specific user permissions. Make sure that you have sufficient permissions. AMD-V. The emulator has a command line parameter -xl -check. I know that KVM works correctly on my computer. That's not a problem. I don't need to install it. I'm not using Windows. Hopefully everything will just work. No additional steps. I will not need to perform any additional steps in order to make sure that I have hardware accelerated virtualization for the Android emulator. Okay, so it has finished downloading the image Google Play Intel x86_64 Atom. Everything seems to have been installed correctly. Android virtual device, Android SDK, medium phone API 36, finish. So let's start the integrated development environment Android Studio splash screen. At this dialog, welcome to Android Studio. We're not going to use source code. We're going to go to more actions, the 3 buttons icon, and virtual device manager. There's already a AVD configured in here, medium phone API 36, Android 16. It has Google Play, the Android App Store. The device is booting. Some Google applications pre-installed, such as the Google Chrome web browser. Okay, this is the Android emulator. It's using QEM, it's using KVM, it's fast, but it also uses hardware GPU acceleration. For instance, the Google Chrome web browser probably requires Vulkan or other GPU acceleration. This is Google Chrome, incognito mode, Google search works. Let's see how we go back. With the right click menu, with the right mouse button. Okay, how do we open a new tab? So keep the left mouse button pressed for a while to trigger the context menu. The left mouse button is your finger, so you can't really select text or display context menus. The action for showing running applications. The home screen. The list of installed applications. The application that we have created in the Android Studio IDE. The gesture to close the application. As I would expect, because I'm an Android phone user. All apps. Okay, so what's important is that the emulator works correctly, at least it doesn't crash. The applications render okay. That's the first thing, correctness and 0 crashes. The second one is speed. The speed is more than enough for me. I'm not actually planning on playing games on Android. And then, because it's maintained by Google, I guess this provides the best possible experience and a bug-free, as bug-free as possible experience. Let's follow the tutorial and try to create another AVD, another virtual machine, and see how easy it is to create one that has a better resolution than this phone. For instance, one that covers the left half of my screen, so that's half of 1080p resolution with a normal DPI, 96 if possible. But I also want the Google Play App Store. Let's see how we can close this image. I pressed on the close button, power button. Now I have the option to start the virtual machine in Device Manager. Previously there was the option to stop the virtual machine. So we're in the Virtual Device Manager, also known as Device Manager. And we want to create a virtual device. Let's see how we do that. From the main toolbar, create virtual device. Sometimes it's called device, sometimes it's called AVD, sometimes it's called virtual device. Hardware profile. A definition labeled with the Google Play logo in the Play Store column indicates that both Google Play Store app and Google Play services, including a Google Play tab in the extended controls dialog. Convenient button for updating Google Play services on the device. Devices with this logo and a device of type phone are also CTS compliant. Might use system images that include the Play Store. Okay, so we have phones, we have the column for Google Play. Most of the phones are Pixel, and medium phone is what we had before. 420 DPI. Really hard to read text. Resizable, experimental, but doesn't have Google Play. There's tablets, watches, desktop don't have Play, neither do TV. So probably the best bet here is a Pixel tablet. If your resolution is way over 1080p for the monitor. Let's try to create a AVD of type Pixel tablet. Baklava, Pixel tablet. I need to select either the release one or the pre-release one. The pre-release one was not downloaded before, and the Atom one has been downloaded before. Okay, finish. I'm not sure why you say ARM translated. Okay, and now we have it in the list of available already configured devices. Pixel tablet. Start. At least the form factor is maybe better than the one from the medium phone. You probably can rotate the medium phone, but then it's maybe not tall enough and too wide. Whereas this aspect ratio is more similar to what I have on the screen right now. Okay, booting. We have the same Google applications pre-installed and the Play Store. Let me try to configure the Play Store such that I can install software from there. I have opened the Google Play application, the Android App Store. I'm trying to log in. Okay, let's try to install, WhatsApp, a random application here. Do I find it correct, the correct one? Okay, great. Seems to work. Everything seems to work okay. If I'm going to guess that the operating system Android inside the virtual machine is Intel x86-64, so all of the applications inside the Google Store that can be installed on this tablet need to be AMD 64 compatible. Let's install WhatsApp. Let's install Mozilla Firefox. Yeah, everything seems to work correctly. The limitation is that maybe you cannot specify the perfect resolution because you need to select a device that has Google Play. Yeah, it would be better if you could just resize or change the display settings. Like even if you have a phone specified as AVD, in here in the settings, in the displays, there should be a possibility of changing everything like height, width, and DPI. This way, for instance, if you want to have a virtual machine that takes just a quarter of your screen and your 1440p resolution, then you could just do that. Bonus points if you could do this from inside the virtual machine, but also from the settings of the virtual machine is okay. If Android cannot change size, change the display resolution and DPI. But no, the resolution is fixed for the primary display, and you decide on the resolution when you create the AVD. But then there's this possibility of adding up to 3 secondary displays, and I don't know, maybe these ones can have a random resolution. .720p. Can't we change the orientation such that it's no longer portrait, it's landscape? You know, what am I seeing? A mobile phone and a... Yeah, that's not what I want. I know. Hopefully in the future there will be resizable images. Inside the device manager, we can see if we try to create a VD, there's this phone resizable experimental, but again doesn't have the Google Play. There should be a resizable desktop, a resizable tablet, a resizable phone. If emulation works fast, correct, has Google Play, this is the big limitations that I face, because I'm going to use this on a desktop. I want to be able to change the resolution. I want to be able to copy, paste text. Okay, what am I doing in Firefox? Set Firefox as your default browser. Cancel. Not now, not now, not now. Dark. Okay. How do we go incognito mode? In here. Okay, so this should be it. Just install, in order to run Android applications on Linux, Intel x86-64, you just need to install Android Studio. If you install the application JetBrains Toolbox, then from there you can very easily install Android Studio, the integrated development environment. Then when you start the integrated development environment Android Studio, you could just ignore the part that's working with source code and with the integrated development environment with all of its tool windows, and just go to more actions, select the virtual device manager, do search on Google for Android Studio Emulator and read the web pages. In here it also talks about the graphical user interface of the emulator. how to use your mouse in order to emulate finger gestures. There's double tap and long press. Long tap. Okay, see what the buttons do, which have disappeared. They used to be here somewhere at the right hand side of the emulator. To power, so to shut down the virtual machine. These emulate probably the hardware buttons, power, volume up, volume down. And because it's a mobile phone emulator and tablet emulator, also in the settings, you have options for fingerprint, for input output of audio, for input of video via camera or via recording your screen. So emulation related to phone functionalities and the smartphone extra hardware. D-pad. Okay, the solution, the emulator for Android inside Android Studio, seems to work best out of all of the ways of running Android applications on Linux that I saw previously. This is it. Thank you.